Good afternoon, fourth grade. Today we're going to continue reading in our novel, James and the Giant Peach. Here we go. There it is. Before we get started, you have a quick write. It says, have you ever had to work together on a team? What were some challenges that you and your team faced? How did you overcome your challenge? Press pause to write down your answers to all the questions and play when you're ready for the focus question. Our focus question for today is, how do characters respond to challenge? What themes are conveyed through their responses? Our vocabulary words are frantic, and that's when you are wild and distraught, you have a lot of anxiety and other emotions. The second word is optimistic, and that's when you are hopeful about the future. And then the last word is pessimistic, and that's when you tend to see the worst in people. Draw your lines that match the words to the pictures, and then turn the page. We're going to use our CSPS strategy as we read Chapter 17 out loud. So we need you on page 46 in your novel, ready to underline CSPS. All right, and so at this moment, the peach has rolled all the way through the countryside and through the town. It rolled over a cliff and into the ocean. And that's where we are right now on page 46. At this moment, the scene inside the peach itself was one of indescribable chaos. James Henry Trotter was lying bruised and battered on the floor of the room amongst the tangled mass of centipede and earthworm and spider and ladybug and glowworm and old green grasshopper. In the whole history of the world, no travelers had ever had a more terrible journey than these unfortunate creatures. It had started out well, with much laughing and shouting, and for the first few seconds, as the peach had begun to roll slowly forward, nobody had minded being tumbled about a little bit. And when it went bump, and the centipede shouted, "That was Aunt Sponge!" and then bump again, and "That was Aunt Spiker!" there had been tremendous bursts of cheering all around. But as soon as the peach rolled out of the garden, it began to go down the steep hill, rushing and plunging and bounding madly downward. Then the whole thing became a nightmare. James found himself being flung up against the ceiling, then back onto the floor, then sideways against the wall, then up onto the ceiling again, and up and down and back and forth and round, and at the same time all the other creatures were flying through the air in every direction, and so were the chairs and the sofa, not to mention the 42 boots belonging to the centipede. Everything and all of them were being rattled around like peas inside an enormous rattle that was being rattled by a mad giant who refused to stop. To make it worse, something went wrong with the glowworm's lighting system, and the room was in pitchy darkness. There were screams and yells and curses and cries of pain, and everything kept going round and round, and once James made a frantic grab at some thick bars sticking out of the wall, only to find that they were a couple of the centipede's legs. "Let go, you idiot!" shouted the centipede, kicking himself free, and James was promptly flung across the room into the old green grasshopper's horny lap. Twice he got tangled up in Miss Spider's legs, a horrible business, and toward the end the poor earthworm was cracking himself like a whip every time he flew through the air from one side of the room to the other, coiled himself around James's body in a panic, and refused to unwind. Oh, it was a frantic and terrible trip. We'll stop right there because we have information about our character and setting. In box 1, we would write, at the beginning of the journey, everyone was cheering. But then the journey became a nightmare. When it was over, everyone began to untangle themselves. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. All right, and for the quote, you can write down this quote on the next page. But it was all over, and the room was suddenly very still and quiet. Write this down for the quote. Everybody was beginning slowly and painfully to disentangle himself from everybody else. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready for the setting. And for the setting, we know on page 46, write this down. After the terrible journey to the ocean, there is chaos inside the peach. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. For the quote, we will write down this first sentence on page 46. At this moment, the scene inside the peach itself was one of indescribable chaos. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready to keep reading. We're on page 48. Let's have some light, shouted the centipede. Yes, they cried, light, give us some light. I'm trying, answered the poor glowworm. I'm doing my best. Please be patient. They all waited in silence. Then a faint greenish light began to glimmer out of the glowworm's tail, and this gradually became stronger and stronger until it was anyway enough to see by. Some great journey, the centipede said, limping across the room. I shall never be the same again, murmured the earthworm. Nor I, the ladybug said. It's taken years off my life. But my dear friends, cried the old green grasshopper, try to be cheerful. We are there. Where? They asked. Where? Where is there? I don't know, the old green grasshopper said, but I'll bet it's somewhere good. We'll stop right there because we have the problem. In box 3A, you would write, the creatures inside the peach do not know where they are. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And for the quote, you would write down what we underlined on page 49. Where, they asked. Where? Where is there? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. We're at probably. We are probably at the bottom of a coal mine, the earthworm said gloomily. We certainly went down and down and down very suddenly at the last moment. I felt it in my stomach. I still feel it. Perhaps we are in the middle of a beautiful country full of songs and music, the old green grasshopper said. Or near a seashore, said James eagerly, with lots of other children down on the sand for me to play with. Pardon me, murmured the ladybug, turning a trifle pale, but am I wrong to think that we seem to be bobbing up and down? Bobbing up and down, they cried. What on earth do you mean? You are still giddy from the journey, the old green grasshopper told her. You'll get over it in a minute. Is everybody ready to go upstairs and take a look around? Yes, yes, they chorused. Come on, let's go. I refuse to show myself out of doors in my bare feet, the centipede said. I have to get my boots on first. For heaven's sake, let's not go through all that nonsense again, the earthworm said. Let's all lend the centipede a hand and get it over with, the ladybug said. Come on. So they did, all except Miss Spider, who set about weaving a long rope ladder that would reach from the floor up to the hole in the ceiling. The old green grasshopper had wisely said that they must not risk going out of the side entrance when they didn't know where they were, but must first of all go up out of the top of the peach and have a look around. So, half an hour later, when the rope ladder had been finished and hung, and the 42nd boot had been laced neatly onto the centipede's 42nd foot, they were all ready to go out. Amidst mounting excitement and shouts of, "Here we go, boys! The promised land! I can't wait to see it!" the whole company climbed up the ladder one by one and disappeared into a dark, soggy tunnel of the ceiling that went steeply, almost vertically, downward. We'll stop right there because we have information about the solution. In box 4A, you would write, the old green grasshopper suggested that they go out the top entrance to look at where they were instead of the side entrance. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And you would write down this quote on page 50. The old green grasshopper had wisely said that they must not risk going out of the side entrance when they didn't know where they were, but must first all go up onto the top of the peach and have a look around. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready for the paragraph. For the paragraph, it says, how does James respond to challenge? What does this reveal about his character? And so we need to think that James did not have a good time tumbling about in the peach, but he is optimistic about where they are and he's excited about the journey ahead.